Hey folks, my name's Nick. Today we're going over a short restorative sequence that's easy to remember. You can whip out at the end of a long day. I do something like this almost every evening or after a workout. So this is a minimal equipment sequence. All you need is a wall and a blanket. If you have a bolster, that will also work. We have 5 poses to cover, but they're really more like themes. There's a lot of room for improvisation and exploration in the sequence. I'll just be making some suggestions on different variations and modifications you can try, but use your imagination, do what feels right for your body. Throughout the whole sequence, breathing deeply and evenly is important. If you haven't already learned yogic breathing, you can watch a short introduction here. And before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more beginner sequences to improve your mobility. All right, here's the sequence. You're going to begin lying down on your back and take some time to tune into your breath. There's no time limit for how long you need to spend here, but generally, this is a slow sequence. I recommend taking at least 2 minutes for each of these poses, but you can take as long as you feel is necessary. After settling into the floor, pull your knees into your chest and give yourself a hug in Apanasana. I think it feels nice to include some movement here, rolling left, right, back and forth, but keeping still is also perfectly fine. There's a lot of Apanasana variations, similar poses that work just as well here. They all feel slightly different for the low back and the hips. 2 variations that I like to practice: practicing one leg at a time, or taking your knees out to the side and grabbing hold of your feet like a happy baby pose. If you have trouble reaching your knees or your feet, then a belt or a strap or just part of a blanket are all good tools for assisting your stretch. While holding this pose, continue focusing on your breath. Pull your knees in and deepen the stretch on the exhale. And inhaling, breathe deep into the abdomen and feel the low back begin to lengthen. Again, take at least 2 minutes here and then move into a spinal twist, number 2. Keep both knees bent and drop your knees to one side. Cup the base of your skull with the arm of the opposite side and begin reaching that shoulder towards the ground on the exhale. To optimize your twist, make sure that your hips and knees are stacked vertically and facing to the side. You can even begin lying on your side to make sure that your hips and knees are stacked. Bring the shoulder as far towards the floor as it's going to come, but it doesn't need to touch. If you want a more supported twist, you can use a blanket under your shoulder. It can really help you relax more into the pose. There are different twists. If you have a version that you prefer, that's totally fine. Some of my favorites are practicing with one leg straight or crossing my knees and twisting in the direction of the bottom knee. Practice your twist on each side. I find that repeating the twist a few times, like left and right, feels better and yields more of a release through my spine than just holding still. So you can practice more dynamically if you want with your twist, or again, if you prefer 2 minutes on each side, that's also perfectly fine. After finishing with the twists, we're going to come into an inversion, restorative inversion. What exactly that means is of course up to you, but I recommend starting with legs up the wall. Set up your folded blanket next to the wall, sit with your shoulders facing the wall, and come into the pose by rolling onto your back, and as you do, swiveling to the side to reach your legs up the wall. The reason I like legs up the wall as an inversion is that it's a great pose on its own. It's easy to transition into another number of other variations, including legs wide apart, ankle over the opposite knee, and for our purposes, a supported shoulder stand. So to come into a shoulder stand, bend your knees, placing your feet on the wall, push into your feet to lift your hips up, and then walk your shoulders down your back so you can support your back with your hands. This is a good way to practice shoulder stands, but again, we're going for a restorative inversion practice. So practice shoulder stand for as long as is comfortable. and then set your hips back down to the floor. Practice legs up the wall again. You can do legs wide apart, knee over the opposite ankle, whatever you like. Do repetitions of 5 to 10 breaths in shoulder stand, or again, you're welcome to practice just legs up the wall as it is. That's also perfectly fine. So take as long as you feel like you need for inversions. 2 minutes is a good benchmark, and then move away from the wall and lay back down on your back. We're moving into fish pose, Matsyasana, next. The most restorative way to practice this pose is to roll up your blanket into a burrito and then lay down on top of it lengthwise. This might take some trial and error to find the exact right size, but ideally you want your blanket burrito to extend from the top of the hips up to the top of the shoulders. So your whole back being supported, but you have your hips on the floor and your head is resting backwards. You can make a slightly longer burrito to give your neck more support, or you can make a thicker burrito to increase the extension through the spine. One of the reasons I like fish pose with props is that it leaves the arms free to move to either side. You can grab the elbows overhead, hands out wide apart, explore a variation of different shoulder mobility drills. However, if you're short on props, or if you just don't want to take the time to roll up and then re-roll your blanket, you can also practice fish pose on your elbows and let your head rest back towards the floor. But don't feel like you need to hold this version for 2 minutes. If it's uncomfortable, you can do just fine with repetitions lasting 5 breaths or about 30 seconds at a time, and then lying back down. That should be enough. The last pose we're looking at has the most opportunity for variation, but also the most opportunity to set up incorrectly. We're looking at forward folds. So let's look at how to do them right. With any forward fold, the most important element is pelvic rotation. We want the pelvis to rotate anteriorly. While we're sitting, that means bringing the pubic bone down towards the floor. So set up your forward fold with your legs out straight in front of you and your pelvis neutral. If your pelvis is beginning to tilt backwards, if your low back is beginning to round as you straighten out your legs, then begin by sitting on a folded blanket or whatever props you like, a cushion, a chair even, enough that you can begin with your pelvis neutral. That's the top of the pelvis parallel to the floor, no hunching or rounding in the low back. So from here, we have a lot of options. Straight leg forward fold, single leg forward fold, wide-legged forward fold with the knees bent and the feet together. You have a lot of room to explore, but wherever you are beginning from, begin with the pelvis. Lower down towards the floor, following the belly, the ribs, the chest, and the head, in that order. Don't try to bring your head down to the floor before you can reach your ribs and your chest down. You can include a mix of different forward folds, or if you want a more traditional yin style practice, just pick one and hold it for 2 minutes or longer. So that's it. That's the sequence. 5 poses or themes to practice in this sequence: Apanasana, a twist, an inversion, chest opening back bend, and a forward fold. That's the basic formula, and it has a lot of potential. It's intuitive, it's easy to remember. So keep it in your back pocket for when you need it, something at the end of the day. After finishing this sequence, I recommend a short meditation. Find a comfortable sitting pose and begin your favorite meditation practice. If you're not sure where to start, then check out the beginner meditations here. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, enjoy your practice.